Hi everyone and welcome. In this video we'll talk a little bit more about a few things that I wanted to focus on last time. So let's try to keep up, shall we? When we return our attention to now, as I was saying, when we immerse ourselves in the present moment, when we dive into this presence, we begin to let more life flow through us. We feel it and it brings us joy. It gives a kind of warmth, love. You want to share this love more, to radiate it everywhere. And the more we put this into everything that happens around us, our actions, our communications with loved ones, with strangers, it doesn't matter whether they're close to us or not. So to say, with our presence and with the actions that naturally appear and come from this presence, from this deep sense of purity and inner clarity, we are able to radiate love more and more, gradually and continuously, to those around us, into the world, and the world gets kind of charged, as if love nourishes this space. The space itself becomes different because space is also alive, and it's alive in the sense that it changes very quickly depending on who observes it. The state of your consciousness, the way you look at it, that's how the space will respond. Someone might call it a soulless space, a cold space, an unpleasant space, because perhaps they themselves are currently in such a state. Someone else might notice that yes, the space is cold and a bit uncomfortable right now, but will offer their love to it. At that moment, they will remember that I create my own space myself, and I nourish it with my life from within, from the source. I am this source, and I nourish my space and the people inside with this energy. We nourish this space by transmitting a flow of unconditional love from the heart, and the space comes alive. It's simply about charging another person with this state. For example, when I record podcasts, interviews, appear on different channels, or just communicate with someone, people often tell me that after talking during individual sessions, their anxiety and worries fade away, they feel calmer, and a sense of peace comes. And this is not really because of personal communication or the right words or anything like that, but simply the presence of this flow of life, the presence of this awakened field of life. And when you actually live like that, it becomes the main support you have in life, because it is always there for you. It exists as long as you exist. And when there is this state of I am, that I simply exist, that I have awakened, I am aware, I am alive. And when this state exists, that is already enough. This is what is called unconditional presence. When all our attention is immersed in the present moment. Of course, we can use the mind as a tool, just like a spoon when we eat some salad, or like the mouth when we speak. We use the personality, the body, certain parts of this body. But these are just tools. And when we become aware of who we are in this way, we begin to relate differently to everything that happens. It's, well, maybe not quite the right word, but a proper attitude. Proper not because there is right and wrong. Proper for a certain purpose. Right and wrong always exist for something. Generally speaking, right and wrong do not exist. Just as good and evil do not exist either. There is something that is right in relation to something else. For example, if you want to cook stew, then the right thing to do would be to buy all the necessary ingredients, cut them according to the recipe so that it's convenient to eat, not just throw in huge chunks of carrot, for example, but to slice it or grate it depending on your preference. And if you prefer grated carrot, then it's more right to grate it rather than slice it. But if you prefer it sliced, then it would be more right to slice it rather than grate it. So, depending on what we want to achieve, the right thing to do might be one thing or another, or sometimes even the exact opposite. And here, in order to live in a right way, yes, so to speak, and if we take the concept that we are here to develop as souls, then the right way to live would be to release our tensions, to move away from, well, not exactly to move away, but to transform all of this into love, our pains, experiences, resentments, disappointments, insecurities, doubts, and so on, and so on, and so on. Transforming all of this into love. How can this be done? This can only be done through acceptance. Through accepting what is right now. That is, the way I am, the way the world is, the way people are in this world, every part of this world, whatever it is, we accept it. If we feel pain, we accept it. We truly feel the pain. We don't feel it and don't want to feel it, and we fight it, somehow trying to suppress this pain inside ourselves to avoid this pain, trying to remove the source of this pain, seeing a person there or someone else. In this situation, we quit a job where we constantly experience this pain because of certain circumstances. We blame that job, thinking that after we quit and start a new job, everything will be different, but the same thing happens all over again. We leave one relationship, and then the same issues carry over into the next relationship. Why does this happen? Because we carry ourselves with us. Everything that causes us discomfort or unease is inside us. It's not somewhere outside. It's just that the outer world reflects it back to us, showing it in a convenient form. But in reality, all of it is inside us. Just as love, joy, and all the good things are within us, so too is everything we call bad inside us. And this is what we need to learn to simply transmute. Whatever it may be, we learn to transform it into unconditional love. Absolutely the same. That's why the main task for a person on this path is to truly learn how to experience things, which leads to acceptance. And acceptance, in essence, is the unfolding of unconditional love for everything that happens. Not tolerance, but true acceptance. Tolerance differs from acceptance in that, with tolerance, we do not love what is happening, we simply endure it. But with acceptance, we begin to love what is happening. We relate to it calmly. In other words, more and more love opens up towards everything. And this unconditional love actually grants everything a person is searching for. And when this unconditional love opens up inside, that's when a person can be called awakened, whole, more whole. Of course, there will still be moments when they fall out of this state, but then they return to it again. As this opens up more and more, awakening occurs, the so-called awakening. And at the same time, when this flow of love or simply life, the presence of this awakened field, becomes sufficient, yes, it's all the same thing, just different words for the same thing, called differently but about the same essence. When there is more of this, then our attention changes. So, it becomes warm, enveloping, gentle, careful, tender, caring, and sometimes strict if needed. In other words, we are already mastering this as a skill. That is, we can manifest ourselves as masters in this life, sometimes more firmly, confidently, turning on our driving force as one of our qualities. Other times, on the contrary, through softness, tenderness, and care. Sometimes it's about lovingly pulling someone out, sometimes it's about being strict, sometimes it's about being active, and other times, on the contrary, about being passive. And there is no right way here. There are many different kinds of training programs, especially those about relationships and psychology, that tell you how you should be in order to live well. Someone has come to know themselves as, so to speak, a successful person. Someone who likes this life, or at least shows that they like it. Though, of course, what's really inside is a big question. And as an author, this person starts saying, "Look, I live this way. Everything is great for me. So you should do the same and you'll get the same result." I think you've seen a lot of such workshops, various ones. I don't want to say anything bad about them. It's also a stage of development, and for many people, it's useful and valuable. Good for them, let them keep doing it. But what's the catch with such approaches? Why, let's say, does it not quite work the way it's supposed to? Because when we try to improve ourselves or something, to create some kind of persona out of ourselves, there's always this idea of what's right and what's wrong. Because life within a persona will always be about having some good qualities and some bad qualities. So, as we saw with the stew example, sometimes these good qualities, like grated carrots or veggies, are wonderful, excellent options. But if you find yourself in a different environment, that same grated carrot might not be valued at all. There, what's needed is sliced carrot. And it's exactly the same with people. Somewhere you'll be appreciated, somewhere you'll be hated, somewhere you'll be loved and admired and given everything you want, and somewhere it'll be the opposite. It all depends on the society, the country, and certain preferences. We have different environments, and in different environments, different things are valued. That's why nowadays the main skill in the world If you want to be valued by someone or liked by someone, which simply brings more joy, pleasure, and flexibility in adapting to life, is to be able to respond flexibly to everything, to adapt. You're like water, which is fluid, takes on any shape, and accepts everything. And this flexibility is all about acceptance, because if we just try to endure everything, we won't be able to endure it all. So imagine if the circumstances keep changing, and there's always something you don't like. One thing, then another, then a third, a fourth. Maybe you'll put up with it for a month, maybe 2, maybe a year. But if there's too much of it, patience creates tension. And that tension just keeps building up and up. At some point, a person simply can't take it anymore. What am I trying to say? That you shouldn't try to be someone, like we stressed it today, there is no right way. We use that as an example in this topic. You shouldn't try to force yourself to act right. It's better to try to find that support within yourself, to connect more deeply with life, to awaken love inside yourself, to open your heart, to start feeling more. An open heart is essentially the beginning of a sensory experience, the beginning of receiving that sensory experience, which is necessary. Because without living through sensory experience, as long as we're just stewing in our minds, when thoughts pretend to be feelings, which sometimes happens when we think we're feeling, but in reality, it's just our thoughts, emotions, ideas, some interpretation of the experience, and so on, through truly feeling ourselves, we begin to awaken. Because we start to sense what's actually inside, and by feeling it, we learn to live through it, no matter if it's pleasant or unpleasant. We learn to experience it. When we do, some sensation, say pain, resentment, some worry, we feel it without running away, and it sort of tells its own story inside us through feelings, through images, through thoughts, through ideas, through emotions. And we simply, by looking at it, without fighting it, without trying to suppress it, open up all our inner space, relax, and just observe. We allow it to come out, to be released. Imagine that it's like a cage filled with a lot of pain, anger, resentment, worries, and anxieties, and all of it is coming out. When we open up, it comes out along with the experience. Yes, the process itself isn't always pleasant, especially in the first few minutes, but then it is out, and you feel a great sense of relief. This is exactly what we try learn here, today, and every day. Basically, everything here is about that.